Good afternoon. So, since I cannot meet you on Monday because I will be attending a meeting, MANCOM meeting at the main campus, so I will just have to leave you with this video so that we can study and learn about the lessons uh, for lesson 9. Now that is on page 32. Lesson 9 is about eduction. Okay, so just don't worry because we will find time para atong ma-discuss thoroughly ang atong previous lesson that is on opposition, because I understand that many of you have not yet fully understood the topic that we had, no? And with all the exercises that I gave you, I hope that sa hinay-hinay inyong makatunan ang maong lesson. But next week we will find time, no? We will find time so that we can discuss further, and I can give you more examples and illustrations so that you can fully understand lesson number 8. But for this afternoon, allow me to share with you lesson number 9, that is on eduction. Now, aside from the quantity of the S or subject term, ang atong P, no, the predicate term also has quantity. So how can we determine the quantity of the predicate term? How can we know the quantity of the P? Okay. So the quantity of the P is determined through the copula or the quality of the copula. Okay. Now listen to this. If the copula is positive, P is particular. And if the copula is negative, then P or the predicate term is universal. Okay, I will repeat. If the copula is positive, P is particular. If the copula is negative, P is universal. Okay, so let us look into this example here. All men are living things. All men are living things. So the S here is, kung sa may S ani, ang subject term, ang S is men, no? Men. And the P is living things. Okay, kasunod, men is the S while living things is the P. So, what now is the quantity of men? Men is the S. What is the quantity of men? It is universal because of the indicator all. No? All is a universal indicator, and so men being the S or the subject term should be universal. What about living things? What is the quantity of living things? Okay? So since the copula is positive, therefore living things is particular. Particular. So, nasundan ba? Azo kalimte, the quantity of the predicate term is based on the copula. If the copula is positive or affirmative, P is particular. If the copula is negative, then P is universal. Always remember that because that is very important in conversion. So how is conversion done? Unsa man nato paghimo ang conversion? Conversion is simply a process of exchanging the position between the S and the P. So atong bayloon ang posisyon karon sa S ug sa P. Ang original nga proposition gitawag nato nga converse. Okay? Gitawag nato nga converse, ug ang result, no? Ang result wherein we have already exchanged the position of the S and the P is called convertent. No? Convertent. So ang original proposition is converse and the result is called convertent. So how are we going to do conversion? Step number 1, interchange the S and P without overextending their quantity. Without overextending their quantity. So what do we mean by not overextending any of the quantity of either terms, S or P? But pasabot, overextended ang quantity sa usa ka term kung gikan sa particular mahimo siyang universal. That is invalid because it is overextended. So, kung particular siya sa original nga proposition, sa converse, dapat magpabilin siya nga particular diri sa convertent. Okay? Kung universal siya sa converse, pwede siya nga ma-particular diri sa convertent. Tungod kay ang rule nag-ingon that there should be no term that will be overextended. O kanus aman mahitabo ang overextension, kanus aman mahitabo nga ang term overextended, kung gikan sa particular, mahimo siyang universal. So from particular to universal, that is overextension or overextended. But from universal to particular, okay ra na siya. Okay, so that's the first step in conversion. We simply interchange the position of the S and the P so that ang S mahimo na karong P ug ang P mahimo na karong S. Sabtan? So, balik ta diri sa example. The original proposition is all men are living things. Ang atong S is men, ang atong P is living things. Now, sa conversion, ato kunong bayloon ang position sa S ug sa P so that diri sa converted, ang atong S mauna ang living things ug ang atong P mauna ang men. Kaya ato manggibaylo ang ilang posisyon. Sundan? Nasundan? Okay. So, ato nang nabaylo. Ang men, nahimo na karong P. Ang living things, nahimo na karong S. Now, what now is the quantity of S and P? Okay, balik tas atong example ha. All men are living things. Unsa ti quantity sa men? Universal because of the indicator all. What about living things? What is the quantity of the predicate term living things? Okay, it is particular since the copula is positive. Sabtan? Men is universal because the indicator is universal, all. But living things, the P, is particular because the copula is positive. Now, we will now exchange the position of living things and men so that ang living things mahimo na sa karong S ug ang men mahimo na karong P. So, unsa may converted karon, take note ha, ang quantity sa living things is particular. Mao na nga sa converted, may na ta karon nga some living things are men. Some living things are men. Nganong nag-sum man ta sir sa living things? Nganong nahimo mang sum ang living things nga sa original nga proposition all men are living things man. Nganong ang converted nahimo namang some living things are men. This ang matakuha og some. Tungod kay sa original nga proposition, di ba, ang atong copula is positive R. So unsa may quantity sa living things, di ba, particular? So kung aton nang ibaylo ang posisyon sa P ug sa S, dadon sa living things ang ijang quantity which is particular. So some living things are men. Okay. So, naabatay na violate nga overextension? Tungod ka sa ang gisulti ganiha, pwede nga from universal to particular. So, kung atong tan-aw na example, all men are living things, it will now become some living things are men. Ang men sa original nga proposition universal nahimo na sa karong particular diri sa convertent tungod kay ang copula positive man. So okay ra na tungod kay unsa ray overextension. Ang overextension happens kung gikan sa particular mahimo siyang universal. Bawal na siya. That is invalid in logic. Okay? So ang rule number 2 giingon po diha nga i-retain ang quality sa copula. So, in the original proposition, the converted is all men are living things. The converse is some living things are men. Nagpabilin nga positive ang copula. Okay? So, by the way, I just want to stand corrected. Ang original di ay nga proposition is called converted ug ang result, no? Ang result is called converse. So nabali ang presentation ganiha. Converted is the original proposition, ang result is converse. Okay? We'll proceed to example number 2. Okay. The converted, the original proposition is all birds are not mammals. All birds are not mammals. So what type of proposition is this? This is universal negative. Universal negative. So this is proposition E. Proposition E. Proposition E is universal and the copula is negative. Okay. So what is the quantity of the S, that is bird? No? Birds, that is our S. What is its quantity? It is universal because of the indicator all. What about mammals? What is the quantity of mammals? It is correct, universal because the copula is negative, are not. Always remember, if the copula is negative, the quantity of the predicate term is universal. Okay. So, the S, the subject term, is universal, the quantity is universal, and the P is also universal because the copula is negative. So, we will now convert this proposition. Sa tatong buhaton, we will interchange atong ibaylo ang posisyon sa S o sa P so that sa converse ang S mahimo ng P ug ang P mahimo ng S. So, birds is our S and our P is mammals. In the converse, ang mammals mahimo ng S ug ang birds mahimo ng P. So, what now is the quantity of mammals in the converse? It is universal. Why? Because in the converted, in the original proposition, the copula is negative. Mauna nga ang mammals is universal. So there is a converse, mayon gapon ka. All mammals are not birds. No? All mammals are not birds. Doon na ba'y overextension? Why overextension? Tungod kay ang birds in the original proposition is universal and it's still universal in the converse. Tungod kay ato mang gi-retain ang copula, no, nga negative. Ang mammals universal sa original proposition sa converted o nagpabilin siya nga universal diri sa converse. Sabtan? Okay. So, moro nay proseso sa conversion. Ato rang ibaylo ang position sa S ug sa P. Magbase ka sa quantity sa S sa original nga indicator. Magbase ka sa quantity sa predicate term sa asaman sa copula, no? Always remember that quantity of the S is based on the indicator, whether it is particular or universal, and the quantity of the P is based on the copula. If the copula is positive, P is particular. If the copula is negative, P is universal. Okay. So, example number 3. Some roses are white flowers. So, nakakita na tag rose nga puti, no? Kasagarang mga rose, puwa or pink. But there are also roses nga white ang isang petals. So, some roses are white flowers. So, our S is roses and our P is white flowers. What is the quantity of roses? It is correct, particular because of some. What about white flowers? What is the quantity of our P? White flowers. Correct, it is also particular since the copula is positive. Always remember that. If the copula is positive, P is particular. So how are we going to convert this one? So we will interchange the S and the P so that in the original proposition, roses is our S. In the converse, it will now become the P, and flowers in the converted, the original proposition is the P, and it will now become the S in the converse. So, unsaon naman na siya? Some white flowers are roses. O nganong nasam naman po ng white flowers? Nganong nasam man ng white flowers? Doon kay, in the original proposition, ang copula is positive. Therefore, white flowers is particular. So the converse of some roses are white flowers is some white flowers are roses. Okay? So, kung atong tan-awon ang mga examples from 1, 2, and 3, kung ang proposition A, no? Kung ang proposition A, universal affirmative, imo siyang i-convert, it will now become proposition I. Proposition I. So, if we convert A, it is converted into I. What about example number 2? It is proposition, the converted is proposition E. Universal negative. All birds are not mammals. So, if you will convert proposition E, the converse is still E. No. E, if converted, will remain E. A will, when converted, proposition A, when converted, it will become proposition I. Okay? A, when converted, becomes proposition I. E, when converted, will remain E. And the third example, proposition I, particular affirmative. So if we will convert I, it will remain I in the converse. Okay. So we have converted already. Take note, nasundan ba? Atong na-convert ang proposition A, proposition E, o ang proposition I. No? A, E, o I. What about O? What about O? How are we going to convert the proposition O? No? O is particular negative. Particular negative. Okay. Isuwat ninyo sa inyong notebook dabe. Isuwat sa inyong notebook. Example of proposition O. Some students are not intelligent. So this is our proposition O. It is particular and the copula is negative. Proposition O. Some students are not intelligent. So that is our convertend. That is the given proposition. So what is the quantity of students? It is particular. Our S is particular because of the indicator some. Diba? Nasundan? The indicator some signifies that our term, our S, students, is particular. Take note of the copula. The copula is negative, are not. Therefore, our P, our predicate term, intelligent, is, what is the quantity of the P? It is universal. Aso kalimte, if the copula is negative, P is universal. Okay? If the copula is negative, P is universal. If the copula is positive, P is particular. Okay, so this is our convertend. Some students are not intelligent. Quantity of the S is particular and the quantity of intelligent, our P, is universal. So, ato na karusang i-convert. We will interchange the position of the students and intelligent. Okay. So, karon ang atong S mahimo ng intelligent ug ang atong P mahimo ng student. Okay. So, what is the quantity of intelligent? It is universal since the copula is negative. So, we will retain the quality of the copula. So, sa converse, negative gyapon siya, are not, and then students. What now is the quantity of students? It is now, student now is universal. Universal tungod kay ang copula negative man. Now, take note, in the original proposition, in the convertend, S is particular, di ba? Some students, so S is particular. But in the converse, student now has a universal quantity tungod kay ang copula negative man. So, this is an example of overextension. Overextended because the term student is particular in the original proposition, but it has now become universal in the converse. From particular to universal, that is not allowed. No, that is invalid. Therefore, it cannot be converted. There cannot be conversion with proposition O. There is no conversion with proposition O, because if you will convert proposition O, you will commit, what are you going to commit? You will commit over extension. So when we speak of conversion, there can only be three propositions that can be converted. Proposition A, proposition E, and proposition I. Proposition O cannot be converted. Is that clear? Klaro? Okay. Ngunay application sa konsepto nga overextended. Dili pwede nga ang term particular there is converted no sa original proposition, then mahimo si jang universal sa converse. Dili pwede. Ang pwede ra universal or universal to particular, but not particular to universal. Okay?